Matt with elitefts here at the Armory in Columbus, Ohio. This is a new build, beautiful facility. Should be opening up around November 1st, 2023. Looking at the posterior chain developer signature version. It's going to have the logo panels on there. Reverse hypers, you can do glute ham raiser, back raise, any kind of posterior chain movement you want to do on this piece. This is really good. The best thing about this, so you just step down on the release, adjust it. So it makes it really easy to adjust these, no pop pins or anything of those sorts. So this is the signature posterior chain developer by elitefts.com.
But I don't need to read the recap because you're here to actually do the recap. So go ahead and throw up the squats. So you said with this one, you're training going into it. So let's go into that real quick. You're training going into it. Everything was dialed in outside of the training. So it takes a lifter a long time to figure out that sleep matters, nutrition matters, and we'll get into all that. But for now, just in context, all those were close to or the best that they ever were, right?
Yeah, in a long time.
Okay. All right. So go back to that first lift. So what is this first attempt?
So this was my opener, 727. It was supposed to be easy as fuck. This was my third attempt. This like literally the worst performance I've ever had. And I've had some pretty bad ones over the years.
Open 727.
Whoops.
Come on, Jordan, come on. All right.
Hey, look at that ass. Nah. So like if you actually see
pause that for a second.
If you see my face in the bottom of that squat, it basically says, oh, what the fuck? Because so let's rewind to my training a little bit. This was my first meet at 190. Well, I did a meet in July at 198 just to be able to get on the roster for this at 198. Because I wanted to see if I could break the world record at 198. It was 804. So in my delusional, arrogant head, I guess, I was like, okay, I could get to an 805 squat with like a 15-pound weight cut, 17-pound weight cut. And really looking back, I feel like I should have, based on like what I've done before in the past. And the way my lifts felt in training, I thought it would be doable as like a hard third attempt. And it just obviously wasn't there that day. The weight cut was nothing I've really never done before. The recomp was better than anyone I've ever had. So in training, I've always been like a little bigger around the middle, like just fatter, whatever the case is. And I've always felt pretty damn stable underneath the bar. So this whole training cycle, I was getting used to squatting heavier weights at like anywhere between 214 and 217, like pounds everyday weight. And I was always so damn like shaky at the bottom. It just felt completely different. This day, I unracked the bar. Everything felt like from the warm-up room, everything felt like a feather on my back. Like I remember laughing in the warm-up room. I was like, holy shit, like this is gonna be a good day. I go out to the platform, same thing. Felt light as shit on my back. Excuse me. And when I was hitting the hole, I didn't feel that instability. But when I came out of the hole, I was just weak. Like it's like I hit a wall. And rewind to our previous conversation about just being around, knowing when it's like a technical error, strength, whatever. This was strength. Like there's nothing like it felt my pattern was great. I just didn't have it. And I have no idea why. Like the easy answer would be, well, you cut the weight, blah, 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 blah. But like I've cut weight before. When I first broke the squat record at 220, I cut like 24 pounds in a week with like Lasix. Irresponsibly. Didn't do it the right way at all. Still did it. So like, I don't know if it just reflects on training, kind of like I talked about in the meet recap a little bit, or I really don't think it couldn't have been mental either, because this was the best I've felt going into a meet since 2016. And I have not felt good going into any meet since then.
Yeah. And the warm-ups felt good.
Everything was good, except for the last one. But that's because we got a little rushed. Like I think a few people called their third attempts, but nothing I've never faced before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can play
the misses.
No, we can what game can we play here? We can play the before you become a great power lifter, we can play the intermediate excuse power lifter and just say, well, you know, the bar rolled.
Yeah, I can't do that.
You know, the carpet was slick. And, you know, how many excuses can we come up with?
That drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah, I know that, but
man.
it's you know what I'm talking about. There's like 100.
Is when people make them for you. Like, I'm like, oh, it's your weight cut. You had to travel for this meet. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've been doing this shit fucking what, 14 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think I'm not prepared for that?
Mhm.
Like, they could put a fucking 35-pound bar up there and I would have been fine.
Yeah.
In theory. Like, yeah, that's the worst when people try to blame other things for your performance. And it's like, nah, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like, I get it. You're trying to make me feel better. You believed in me. I fucked up. So you got to make yourself feel better. But I just fucking sucked that day.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of a mind fuck though, too, because you didn't fall out of the groove on the way down.
No.
I mean, technically everything there's solid, you know, so you're looking at, you kind of wish there was a technical glitch.
I wish it was, man.
Because then it's easier to figure out what went wrong.
2 weeks prior, I spotted 771 better than that.
Is this the second now?
I haven't even watched these ones yet, the misses. So this will be a good one. I don't go far.
360.
A veteran in the sport, 347.5 kilos.
347.5 kilos, 766 pounds. Let's go, Jordan.
There's no gas.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like even Shane was like, do you want to go like 750 next? And I was like, maybe I'll get a second gear. Let's go 766. But
And then you tried to repeat that same thing.
Same thing happened.
Yeah.
Sit right out that hole.
Now, are you trying to make any corrections between these attempts or just
So
focusing on what to do right?
actually on this third attempt, like Shane, he squats wide like me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, try to just go a little wider because I have been going a little more narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Wong.
And even though like it looks like I got nowhere on that, I did feel a little better in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely gone away from like the wider flared out stance, even though it still always looks like I am than I used to. And I don't know why. So I kind of know why. Like I've had a knee issue on and off since, like I said, 2016. And sometimes, a lot of the time when I'm wide, for some reason, that's when it flares it up. When I'm just a little more narrow, which in theory, it should not be like that. It's a little better. But yeah.
All right. So now we're on to the bench.
So
Might go to 175 after and look for a 400 on.
Now,
I see how
pause
that-
for a
that's
second
on
real
there.
quick. Was your pec acting up before this?
yeah, I was actually just going to mention that. So this is 363, right? Like just funny saying that because how light it is
Mhm.
from previous whatever. But in my mind, I was going to hit that squat. Like I had no doubts. So I was like, okay, my pec's been a little off feeling, nothing worse than it's ever been. And I was telling actually my spotter Eugene right there a couple weeks prior, another guy who was there, Larry, and I was like, I'm going to open at 363 because even if I strain my pec, I can just call it, but I know I can just not lose the record and bomb out because I fuck my pec up.
Mhm, mhm.
And we saw what happened. I got this, but this was actually the first day in weeks where my shoulder and pec did not hurt.
He doesn't typically compete
Till
in
it
this
did.
weight class. That was a nice light touch. That was an easy.
That was
push.
good. Jordan might be good for 400 today.
Yeah.
If he makes a 175 call on 2, he's going to look to try to get over that 400-pound range. He's done it. his
So what
last
is this
3 or
one?
4 meets. Last
385.
time when he
This was
already injured.
this is the attempt that cost
I
me
would expect this to
$15,000
be
tomorrow.
like
Mhm.
like an RP9 bench, unless he gets that descent
Right
to
there.
Really
So it's
hard.
funny because like
Yeah, see that he's gonna grab his shoulder.
when you
Yeah,
watch it,
there is.
I get to my chest and I just go to press it. In my mind, maybe it wasn't like this, but when I heard it tearing on the way down, I felt like it just fell on me and they just pulled. I don't remember trying to press it. So I don't know if like I just mixed that up in my head because of the adrenaline,
Mhm.
but maybe it started to tear when I tried to press it. Yeah. And it's funny, again, I keep saying it's funny, but tearing my pec has been like my fear since I started powerlifting and knowing about injuries.
Mhm.
Like I fucked my back up really bad back in 2015. That was terrible. But I've seen so many people like post the pictures with the bruising and the torn pec.
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be very painful. Like we talked about
Yeah.
before, it doesn't even like I feel like I could go bench right now.
Yeah.
But
Go to his all-time best bench.
yes.
Come on, Jordan.
Torn my pec with 385.
Okay. Now you were saying technically things have changed since you've strained the pec, training for that meet. So what's different with your bench now than there?
So not so much technical. So this was 2016. And so my bench always kind of seemed to stabilize between 462 and 484, depending on the meet. And I got a little smaller, like I lost some body fat, so that probably contributed to some of the strength loss. But really, I was just stuck there for a while. And then March or April of 2020, my friend and I, we were doing, it was during COVID. We were just training at my house. All the gyms are closed down. My friend Joe and I were doing 225 for reps every week, trying to get it up. I got to like 34 reps. And the next week it went to like 27 and then 22 and then like 16 and then like 11. I was like, all right, what the fuck is going on? And pretty much my left tricep and left lat, they just seem to shut off. Like I could do a tricep push down, never feel a contraction, lat pull down, never feel a contraction. And then ever since then, it just kind of went up and down, up and down. But when I say up and down, it would be between the ranges of 275 and 413. So like it went 485 to 429 at the power surge meet I did in October 2020. And then after that, that's when it really started to go downhill. And I've just been fighting like hell to get it back to where, shit, I don't even say back to where it was, like even 440 I'd get, right? And then I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about here, like anatomically, but I feel like whatever was going on there kind of screwed my shoulder up a little bit. My serratus was always really tight. I was always, like I said, I'm not a genius, but like quote unquote compensating for something. And if you go to the American Pro bench, when they had that top angle, you could see one arm.
Yeah, go back to that American Pro bench.
Like from the top angle, you can see my right arm flared out like it should be. My left arm tucked all the way to the side. So it looks like I'm gripping completely different.
I would
I've had
expect
spotters
this to be like an RP
like,
80,
right,
like, what
and that go back.
like an RP 9
Right,
bench.
hold on.
Unless he gets that descent touch really on.
There.
Yeah,
see like my right
he's
arm
gonna grab his shoulder,
flared out
yeah.
like it should,
Yeah, it is.
left right by my side.
Yeah, so you're protecting it.
Yeah, so like I'm assuming for a very long time, that left arm that's closer to my body has been, like maybe the word is compensating, whatever the case is, was wrecking my pec over time and my shoulder. Because like look at mine.
Yeah.
Like even without the torn pec, like and I've never had shoulder issues. Like shoulder mobility problems, getting underneath the bar sometimes, yeah. Like I've never not been able to do like Y raises or overhead press. And like, not to play tough guy, but like there's never any pain. It was just very bad restriction. So
now when you were bouncing around with trying to figure that out over the years, what things did you try? What things helped? What things didn't help? Because I've been in that boat. You're doing everything.
So fucking frustrating. And like, so we're talking about the strength lost in the left arm.
Yeah, because it's nerve. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So you're hitting it from everything.
Because everyone has their own theory, right?
Yeah.
So like no one actually knows.
Yes.
Even if they have a good idea and even if they're kind of right, it's kind of a weird thing on how to address it. But like I've spent countless amount of dollars on like ART, massage. So the massage really wasn't for that. That was just whatever. The ART, dry needling. Coincidentally, the girl that did my dry needling, she was doing physical therapy for me for that about a year prior. Off the books, whatever. She worked in a different place. And I worked with like Trevor on it because he coached me for on and off for a while. So we tried to fix it. Tony Rogers out of Fort Lauderdale. He's a strength coach, chiropractor. Nothing worked. Like anything. Like, yeah, I had no idea. I'm sure there's more I tried. I reached out to many different people, tried my own things. I thought maybe it was just something as simple as getting some shoulder stability back. So I'm just doing fucking kettlebell presses.
Yeah.
Like it's going to do anything. Yeah, but honestly, nothing, man. There wasn't any pharmacology that could help that. So I couldn't even resort to that. I mean, I could and just say maybe I'm trying it, but nothing.
So when you were laying out training cycles or meet prep phases or whatever people call it today, how would you lay that out with this in mind? Because did you have any indication that it was up and down?
So since that time frame, I've worked with like a couple different coaches. Trevor was one of them. Trevor is like the main one on and off. So with him, we kind of just resorted to quote unquote like RPE stuff, like try to hit what we can get for that day because it was so sporadic. Like one day I could smoke a 400-pound bench and one day I could barely move 335. So we kind of just try to figure out what we would do for that day. But in the end, progress really wasn't made, because it was just like I'd have a good day, I'd have a bad day, and it would just be like any given day. So to answer your question, it was just guessing. Because there's no way I could just say, well, I know this is going to happen. Like with my squat, I could just lay out on a pen and paper right here, 16 weeks out, what I probably need to do, plan for at least a few days where I have to change my mind on the spot. Like kind of like you spoke about many times with people, like you drive to the gym and you change your mind 15 times.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's going to happen. But with the bench, you couldn't do that because you had no idea. Whether it was pain, weakness. Yeah.
Now you're very good at looking back at your own training with a critical eye, because you've essentially kind of always coached yourself with other people giving insight here and there.
Yeah.
So when you look back on that meet, and granted, it's not going to change what you're going to have to do going forward, because rehab is going to come from pec surgery and so forth. What are some of the takeaways that you had looking back through the training leading up into this meet?
The American Pro?
Yeah.
So I feel like the way my training was structured, it was so it started out really good. Actually, I feel like I did pretty well throughout. I didn't have really many bad days, but I feel like I was lacking some accessory work, and I kind of married the number on some days, right? Like some days I would just go a little too light, some days go a little too heavy, and whatever number is on the plan, I would just do. Sometimes I would up it just a little bit, but like that's it, just for like ego purposes. But I was doing a lot of the same accessory work, because in my mind, I was like, all right, well, because in the past, I spent so much time trying to find like those perfect accessory movements. And I'm like, I got a pretty good base. I've been around for a long time. Like, I'm not going to change my row variation, get much out of it. Right. And let's just focus on doing the right amount of volume and intensity, depending on where we're at, depending on how you define intensity in the training cycle. So I think I really, like we spoke about earlier, I was so obsessed with getting like the lifestyle factors in order, where I was not going into my training sessions with like an obsessive attitude. Like in the past, like when I did the first 220 record, there's a story going into that, which maybe we can get to, but I was so obsessed with the numbers I laid out on paper, where like you could burn the building around me and I would hit those and then leave the building. This one, it was like, all right, I just got to hit this, but I got to make sure I go home and eat all my food, or don't go eat pizza tonight and go to bed on time.
So leading into that 220 record, not that exact, but getting the years before that. So you start off, a rookie in the sport, and then you're educating yourself probably more so than most, right? And you're starting to put together. And with another limited edition apparel drop, this is the new Live, Learn, Pass On shirt. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our cambered grip American cable attachment. This attachment has 4 grips and it's cambered. So when you flip it, it actually becomes 8 grips. And if you turn it upside down, there's actually 16. This is one of our most used cable attachments out in the gym. Even got that full range of motion. We got a second limited edition drop this month as well. Head over to elitefts.com, pick up the shirt, pick up the cable attachments, and we'll see you next time. If you like this video and want to see more like it, click here.